my content is resonating with like the most senior PMMs who've been around the block for 10, 20, 30 years. I recommend PMMs build a portfolio on LinkedIn. Now, why do I say this? LinkedIn is searchable. I've had PMMs say that they have landed every single job in their career through a recruiter outreaching them on LinkedIn. You do not have to do a managerial role if you do not want it, even if it comes under the guise of a specific job title.
Welcome to Who Invited Marketing, the podcast that gives marketers the inside scoop on how to level up and stand out. My today's guest is Hattie, or better known as Hattie the PMM. Hattie is a product marketing coach and the founder of productmarketers.com. In this episode, we talk about imposter syndrome, tangible skills for PMMs, how to get promoted, building a LinkedIn portfolio, and much more. But before we get into the good stuff, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on Spotify, drop a rating. It helps more marketers like you find these game-changing insights. Here's presenting Hattie. Welcome, Hattie. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Firstly, kudos to you, Hattie, for launching a dedicated website for product marketers. I'm curious to know about your journey. Were you always a product marketer, and what gap did you see in the product marketing world that made you start productmarketers.com?
So I like to call myself the Benjamin Button of the career world, where I've gone backwards in life in a weird way. I've niched down later in life. So I started off as a CEO and founder of my own company that I ran for 7 years. That was an e-commerce play. That was really awesome. And it took up a lot of my product marketing knowledge to build that company. And that was when I started to delve into the rights of like marketing and putting myself out here and like building out a tech team, which was really cool. Then after I exited that company, I was hired as CMO at a Finland-based company that was B2B and B2G. So they were government-based as well. And they wanted me to replicate the success that they had in Scandinavia within the UK. So I was hired as the CMO to then build out the marketing function, build out the team, and basically replicate the success. And we did very, very well. And then after that, I was like, oh, my superpower is product marketing. That's funny. Because it didn't really have a job title 10 plus years ago when I started my career, right? So then I was like, let me go deep. Let me go really deep and specialized. And that's when I became a PMM. And at my last company, which is the American firm, I really had an absolute great time delving deep, honing my skill set, learning more, being able to go through the good, bad, the ugly. And it was through that experience, and especially seeing a lot of tech layoffs that were happening, that I was like, wow, I really need to secure my career right now, because us PMMs were being let go as the first sort of rounders, because a lot of organizations don't understand what it is we do, right? And also the fact that they saw us as an overlapping role and blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, I need to figure out, how do I secure my own career? So that's when I started to put motions into place to make sure that I was always seen as a PMM that was in demand, that knew what I was speaking about, that was really, really savvy, really like sharp, right? So then that's when I started to learn these skills and a bit of a framework and a rule book and a playbook that I was like, I think that this can be replicated amongst other PMMs. So I tested it out. I luckily had a lot of PMMs outreaching to me on LinkedIn when they were consuming my content, being like, hey, I want to do what you do, or can you help me? Can you coach me, etc. So I started to do ad hoc little bits on the side of my full-time work. And then I realized, I think that I can create a dedicated membership community for us PMMs where we'd be able to learn what great product marketing looks like, learn from other guest experts, not just myself, because it's not the Hattie show, and making sure that we're always up to date with what's happening in AI, in the market, having a very real look at what is happening to us PMMs and making sure that we're always up to date. So that's when I created productmarketers.com. When I launched it primarily at the end of January, it was primarily for building up your personal brand internally where you work and externally on LinkedIn, because that was the winning formula for me to protect my career. But then it became a really amazing place where we would share tips and knowledge and IC work and like reviewing sales decks. And basically, it became more than just personal branding. So that's now where I've relaunched productmarketers.com to be the place for product marketers to learn what great product marketing looks like.
Such a great story. And this niching down, that's the first I'm hearing something like that. That's really unique and just goes on to show that you're really passionate about being a PMM. Love that. What's been the biggest challenge and reward so far in building a platform specifically for PMMs?
Oh, so the biggest challenge has been the shift that I've recognized and felt from people who were supporting me at the start of last year versus the people who are now supporting me. It's a really interesting thing where when I was working my full-time job, I recognized that a lot of big names and players in the PMM space, the influencer space that I'm in, they were very supportive, very encouraging because I was a small fish, right? I was very small. I was doing my full-time work. Like I logged off at the end of the day. I wasn't encroaching on anyone's turf. And it was the moment that I started to really put myself out here and say that I'm building a community for PMMs that people are like, wash their hands off me. They were like, no, we are no longer supporting her. And I was like, oh, that's different. So I wasn't actually anticipating the shift in the supportive nature that people had towards me. So seeing people turn from friends to frenemies was a real shift in how I had to just make sure that I was always pushing myself forward and making sure that I had my customer in mind and not my ego in mind. Because at the end of the day, I'm not doing this for my competitors. I'm doing this for PMMs and the younger version of me and even the senior version of me who just wants a space to have a soundboard, right? So that was the most challenging thing, like the shift that I noticed that, like what I thought were my friends are no longer my friends, and that's okay. I guess that's just part of life and success. Then the most beautiful thing has been the actual transformations that happen in PMM's lives. Like it actually blows my mind that I'm able to have a small role in actual people's lives and career trajectory. It's the most humbling and most spiritual experience I've ever felt. I felt like it's kind of closest to like godliness in a weird way, where it feels like serving people enables me to tap into my higher power and enables them to push into their higher power spiritually as well. Because a lot of PMMs that I speak to are really dealing with a lot of chaos right now where they work and also at home, and just like everything's kind of enmeshed, especially if they work remotely. It's just like, where do the lines end and start? So being able to see people actually transform their lives in a short space of time when I work with them, I'm like, this is phenomenal. Like, this is exactly what I'm meant to be doing. So I park my ego, I park like other people's opinions who tell me to stop doing what I'm doing, like just let the US influencers do it because I'm the only one in EMEA who's doing this, right? So I just enable myself to stay focused with my ICP in mind, which is like the PMMs and changing their life.
One thing that I've found to be really different with you is that you're very real. So I remember scrolling my feed and I remember you relaunching your website, and I see this post where you are crying that it didn't go well. And that was so, I mean, I know it must have been really difficult for you. It was so emotional and it was so, in a weird way, empowering to see you, get through that and come back, bounce back even stronger.
There had been multiple days after I posted that video that I was like, why did I post that? So embarrassed. I was like, what was I
No.
thinking? But it was out of sheer desperation on the day. It was literally like 8 a.m. on launch day. And I had realized that because I did this integration between my Squarespace and email, that they were connected, but then I reconnected it and it booted all of my DNS settings out of my domain and everything. So I was not receiving emails for a week straight up until the launch of productmarketers.com. And bear in mind, I had spent 3 to 4 months worth of time working on this. So I had built up the wait list whilst I was working my full-time job, creating so much content, built out the website on my own, built out all of the content and the video courses inside the community, done all of this work. And then the week before launch, my emails are not working. And I was like, I was so naive, Priyanka. I was literally like, oh my God, no one has any questions because like I'm not getting any emails. Like it must all be so clear that because no one was messaging me. So then when I found out on the day that my emails weren't being received, people were emailing me back and then pinging me on LinkedIn being like, hey, I had a question about joining your community, but you haven't emailed me back. What the heck is going on? And I'm like, what is happening? Because I'm not receiving any emails. So I felt like the overwhelm, the sheer overwhelm of everything and the pressure, the pressure of like a hard launch in public with thousands of followers. I just felt like the world was on my shoulders. So then I just cried like a baby. Like I just wept. And I was like, you know what? If there's ever a time, because I was like, I need to now figure out the connection, the configuration, and then ping everyone an email. I was like, forget that. I'm not doing that. I'm going to just film a video right now, raw, tell everyone what the heck is happening, that everything is kind of messed up right now. I'm trying to figure it out. Who can help me figure out my emails? And there have been multiple times in my career where I've cried on a job. Like I've gone to the bathroom and I've had to cry. And I feel like a lot of other people who are listening have probably had that exact same moment. So if anything, I hope to normalize that we are all humans just trying to do the best that we can in our job, in our real life, just trying to make money that we can, help our kids and like bring up a good family or just have like a meanable way to just succeed in life and just enjoy life. And there are the ups and downs, and a lot of us have had those teary moments. Like you said, I'm going to be real. I'm going to be authentically myself. I'm going to show that this was messed up. But yeah, there've been days where I'm like, why did I post that? That's so embarrassing.
It was really nice and real for everyone. I hope everyone who was reading it. So, tuning into better questions. With such a wide range of experience levels in your audience, how do you balance the content to serve both ends? How do you curate or design resources for productmarketers.com to stay relevant for both new and senior PMMs?
Luckily, what I do is, as always, my first step is I speak to a lot of PMMs on a weekly basis. So I speak to PMMs at all different stages in their career. And also I throw my London meetups that usually has PMMs who are more senior, or they work at larger big tech firms, or they're basically just kind of telling us how they've done things. So for me, what I typically do is I kind of pass the information and make sure that I'm the sounding board for PMMs worldwide. So I basically am the voice that helps us learn across the board as to what I'm hearing on the ground, that then enables me to create content that's aligned with that person that's told me what they're going through, what their issues are, what's going well. And then I create content that is super in depth, but super wide. So I hit both angles. So when I create either my LinkedIn content or my YouTube content, the goal for me is not for me to look like I'm so smart and I know all these acronyms and really hard terms. Like I know all of the words, but for me, it's a case of I want to break things down into first principles so they're super easy for even a beginner, but equally they serve a senior person as well in terms of the actual content. So a senior person never feels dumbed down ever when you're using simplistic terms, and simplistic terms always resonate well with beginners. So I think that's where a lot of influencer types, regardless if they're in product marketing or any other niche, go wrong, is because they're more concerned about looking smart. And they're more concerned about, oh my God, I know all these words and all these like blah, 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 like acronyms and like LTV and CAC and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, whenever I say these acronyms, I break them down, Priyanka. I'm just like, if I say CAC, I mean this. If I use cadence, like the word cadence is basically a fancy term of like, a frequency of amount of like calls or whatever. So I break down terms when I'm saying it. So then anyone who's a junior can be like, oh, now I understand. But also the senior person is like, oh, that's sweet. She explained what she meant. So I'm very smart and cognitive that I make sure that I'm always tapping into the wider breadth of PMMs. And I think that's why I resonate with not just the juniors, but the really seniors. And there's this wild Reddit thread, which was speaking about the first 30 to 90 days on a PMM job. And they were like, is there any good resources from it? And a guy had shared my YouTube series on this and was like, these videos are fantastic. And then someone had replied to his thread saying, oh my God, like, I don't believe in frameworks. And what is a YouTube video going to teach me? Like, usually it's just like, it's going to show me how to be a unicorn company. And there's no real framework to do that. Otherwise, every company would be a unicorn company. And then this guy replies back and he was like, Hattie literally says this in the first 5 minutes. Like, she literally says frameworks are bullshit and you should like make sure that you're doing things the right way. And here is a video that actually encapsulates it. And the guy then said, I'm a director of product marketing at an American firm, and her video is really good. And when I read
Wow.
that, bear in mind, Reddit is an anonymous, like you can be an anomaly. Like no one can know who you are. You're anonymous, right? So the fact that he took the time to say that, and I was like, oh my gosh, my content is resonating with like the most senior PMMs who've been around the block for 10, 20, 30 years. And even in my community, there are people who are like 30 years in the game and are still willing to learn something from me in the community. I'm just like, this is wild. So it's a great question because I don't think a lot of people are actually taking the time to think about who is their ICP. And there's a lesson in this product marketing wise, right? Because at the end of the day, with anything product marketing that we're doing towards a company that we work at, we want to resonate with the right person. And the ICP can be a specific seniority. And then it becomes a case of what content or what language are you using that either hits the breadth of the people that you're trying to target, or a very specific niche that enables people to say, oh, I am not this, but I am this. Because sometimes it's a case of telling people, go away, this content is not for you. But equally, it's a case of like, who do you want to make your content for? And therefore, what language are you specifically using? How do you want to dictate it? Is it more of a formal versus informal? Is it more of a best friend or a boss sort of energy? Like these are the sorts of things that I don't think a lot of people think about, but I am very, very hyper aware of how I want to come across and making sure that it's aligned with who I am authentically, but making sure more specifically that it resonates with my ICP. And I think that's why I've done very well with my content.
You definitely have, and it's such a great win to just go on Reddit and read something so good about yourself, especially when Reddit can be so, so mean. So congratulations on
Yeah.
that.
Thanks. Yeah, I missed the one mean comment, but I'm sure the mean comments are coming because I'm just like, it's going to be what it's going to be. But yeah, that comment really made me so happy.
When was this?
Oh, I think it was posted maybe 3 months ago because I searched on Reddit like an absolute narcissist. No, I'm joking. I'm not a narcissist, but I did search for my name because I was like,
Amazing.
I wonder if I come up. And then yeah, I found myself in the product marketing, like hashtag, no, the slash product marketing. I found myself in there. And yeah, it was only a couple months ago, but yeah, it really made me happy.
Amazing. Makes me happy as well. So you've worked closely with so many PMMs. What's the most common struggle PMMs come to you with in your coaching sessions?
The most common across all genders, across all seniorities, across all geographies that I have seen time and time again is the imposter syndrome that happens with PMMs. And here's why. I have a theory that it's because we work across so many different teams with so many loud opinions that it is more common for us to receive news which is either bad or critical as opposed to positive. And especially when we're working really closely with the sales team, who typically are demanding more out of us, whether it's talk tracks, whether it's sales enablement, whether it's just any bit of collateral that they need to close a deal, then the pressure is mounting. And here's the thing, when they don't close a deal, who do you think that they're going to blame it on in a weird way? They're going to bash the product marketer or the marketing team in general because they're like, well, if I had the right deck or if I had the right this, that, and the other, then I would have closed it. Exactly. that. So imposter syndrome has been the biggest thing across all of my clients, across all of my community members, hands down, fact, 100% guaranteed. And it's wild because the way that I've seen and helped PMMs break out of it is a mix of the hard skills and the soft skills. So the soft skills are actually really important to pile on, where a lot of PMMs have done the certification. So they've done courses, or they read online, or they read specific books, and I do too. However, there's not a lot of time dedicated to the soft skills, which a lot of other organizations and other departments do not have to work on because they're typically siloed. Like a product manager typically really needs to work with us and the engineer, or the salesperson is definitely siloed most of the time. They just need to speak to prospective customers or their current customers if they're trying to keep them from churning. We, however, work with so many different people of so many different seniorities in the organization that's important for us to work on the soft skills, which are the communication piece, the ability to create boundaries, the ability to be assertive, the ability to negotiate so people don't actually hate us if we ask for things or if we demand things. And it's these soft skills that I don't think a lot of people have taken the time or the wherewithal to actually realize is holding them back. So a lot of PMMs that I have spoken to, they're like, hey, look, I go to the conferences, I read the books, I've taken every single certification on product marketing, and I don't know what's happening because the sales team hates me. Like my manager is undermining me. I have wild imposter syndrome because of all of this, even though I've done everything that I possibly can. And I'm like, have you worked on you? Have you worked on your soft skills? Like, where have you done an audit on yourself to see what is lacking or what are like potential flaws that then can be plugged and that can be improved with time? And it takes that level of really hard looking yourself in the mirror in order to observe the gaps so then you can work on those gaps. So once that work is done, I've seen phenomenal results with people, and it's typically where I help is because I have a shit ton of confidence that it usually rubs off on a lot of people that I work with, which again is just like such a benefit. A lot of people are like, whoa, I actually had the confidence to speak up to a salesperson who was demanding XYZ at 2 a.m. in the morning in my inbox. And I was just like, what would Hattie do? Because like they were like, I don't know how else to program this like confidence in me. And I'm like, that's amazing because you're now just programming yourself and just like getting into that habit of saying no, of being assertive, of having these boundaries. And you don't necessarily have to be like quite like, you know, bullshit or cutthroat. I have a lot of people that I've spoken to PMMs wise who are very soft spoken, very calm, very like connected to themselves. But they then, when they pair that up, that soft skill of like being assertive, having boundaries with their natural tendency to be soft, to be kind, they actually have a phenomenal result in their career. So yeah, that's the common thread that I've found amongst a lot of PMMs is the imposter syndrome.
That's surprising to know because I was guessing it would be something else. Secondly, uh, it's nice that you gave a list of soft skills, because when I usually talk to people about the very same question, the only soft skill that I get to hear is empathy, and just that's it.
It's kind of like, it kind of feels like an empty word, right? When you say be more empathetic, it's like, well, what does that look like? What are the actual tangible ways that I can be an empath? And I think this is where the difference is between my style of teaching and I guess the generic, which is like, you know, be more confident and stand up for yourself and be an empath and, you know, listen and active listen. And it's like, well, what does that actually look like in the tangible sense? Okay, if you're an empath, maybe that means you nod your head when a customer is speaking or when your colleague is speaking on the call, as opposed to just staring at them when they're like, oh, I need you to do this, PMM. And you're like, okay. So you might need to like nod your head. You might need to smile a bit more. You might need to be like, yes, and then respond. So instead of it being like a firm no, maybe it's like, yes, I understand your perspective, salesperson, who you need to close deals because your aim is to get commission, because I know you have a baby at home. I know you have a partner at home, and I know the commission is super important to you. However, unfortunately, I can't deliver that against this time frame, but I understand why you're asking. I understand your perspective. So an empath might be more of, I understand all of the other shit that's happening in your world, and then I'm addressing it from a place of care, whilst also acknowledging you and your pain and all of the crap that you're dealing with before I acknowledge myself. Where a lot of people will be like, oh, the salesperson has asked me for this, like at the end of the month, or like right at the end of the day when I'm about to log off, like what am I going to do now? Because you're thinking about you and like, oh, well, my day's ruined. I had a dinner planned. I had this and that. When actually an empath is probably like prospectively putting the other person's needs at the forefront of your mind, whilst not allowing that to allow you to deter your boundaries. So it's a really fascinating one when I hear advice, which is like, be an empath. And it's like, but like, what does it actually look like? And I think a lot of us need that broken down, at least I do. It allows me to contextualize it better. So I'd be like, oh, I just need to implement that into my job, and then good results come out of that, if that makes sense.
Love that. And it's such a core product marketing thing to do, making sense of arbitrary words. So
Oh, heck
amazing.
yeah.
What do you look for when helping someone position themselves for a senior PMM or head of PMM role?
So I've helped a few PMMs do this, and my most recent, she was awesome. So basically, she went from no product marketing knowledge, and then within a year, we got her into a senior PMM role. It's not something that I actively promote. I don't actually say that I help PMMs get into bigger roles or whatever, but I just know the skill set that is required for a PMM to be successful. Because having hired PMMs when I was a CMO and being a PMM, I just know what works. So when it comes down to, up leveling and upskilling and moving into a job role that has a higher salary and a bigger job title, it really does require that audit piece where it's like auditing where you're at right now versus what is required from a senior PMM, either at the organization that you work at or at a new organization. And the definition can be completely wildly different depending on organizations, depending on their verticals that they're in, depending on the industry, depending on the geography, whatever. So it's a case of figuring out and doing like a review of a lot of JDs of job descriptions out there in the market and seeing what is actually required, and then doing an internal audit and then plugging the gaps. The biggest thing, and I know I'm going to repeat myself, but sometimes things need to be repeated to really stick in, is the soft skills are so much more important than the hard skills at that place. And especially the more senior you are in your career. Because if you think about it, a CMO or a VP of product marketing or a director of product marketing is typically not doing the IC work. They are actually implementing their soft skills to get work done beneath them. So it's actually the enablement of their communication skills, their boundaries, their assertiveness, all of these different soft skills that they have, even a soft skill of being friendly and being kind and being someone that people want to help, right? These soft skills are super important to hone at a young age. So then when an opportunity comes your way that someone is like, hey, we want you to be the senior PMM at our organization, you are ready because you've done the internal work to build yourself up. Because sometimes it's not the case of, I will apply to a senior PMM role and then I'll figure it out. Sometimes it's worth being proactive on your career to be like, well, what are the skill sets required and what are they looking for? And does this role allow me to manage other people? Does it require that? Or does it require different skill sets as a IC? And it's important also to acknowledge to yourself whether you want a managerial role or not. You do not have to do a managerial role if you do not want it, even if it comes under the guise of a specific job title. So it's important to also acknowledge that you have a voice. If you don't want to be a manager, you do not have to in order to be very, very, lucratively paid or have like a really, thriving career. So I would recommend looking at the soft skills and pairing that up with the knowledge that's also acquired throughout your career in terms of experience, but also potential hard skills that can be built in terms of learning more about AI or specific topics that maybe aren't your skill set as well.
Love that answer. Can you share a breakthrough moment a client had that surprised you?
So I guess my biggest breakthrough, or my client's biggest breakthrough, has been seeing one of them, her, go from absolute junior in her career within an organization that is unknown. It's like a mid-tier sort of org. And now she's broken into big tech. And I'm like, oh, this is wild, considering she had insane imposter syndrome, insane lack of confidence, literally had no idea what she was doing. And within, I would say, a year and a half, has gone from mid-tier, mid-level org to big tech. And again, it's really fascinating because when she came to me with her symptoms, which was like, I don't know what I'm doing, like no one understands like what I do, and I don't know how to tell them, and do I just help everyone, or like I don't know. And seeing those symptoms and then recognizing, it's actually not a lot about her actual knowledge. It was more about her confidence and her ability to articulate herself in rooms that weren't designated for her. So for me, it was a case of how do I get her into the executive suite? So then she's just a fly on the wall. She's not saying anything, but she's actually just taking in the information. So it was a case of, it was a really strategic play that we were doing for an entire year and a half at the organization that she was working at, because I wanted her to take in as much information. I wanted her to seep in all of the good things. And then whenever she had a bad issue happen, or I recognized bad traits in people that she worked with, I would actually call it out to her and say, hey, by the way, the person that you worked with, you know, the CPO, the Chief Product Officer, he has a really bad trait because he did XYZ when you asked for, you know, ABC. So it was interesting where I could see that her barometer was kind of changing and learning what great looked like and what terrible looked like. So it not only enabled her to become exceptional within such a short space of time, because she's so savvy, she was like a sponge. And I love clients like that who are just like absolute sponges, open-minded, like willing to work on themselves, like dream client, right? But it was exceptional to see that she had honed the skills and the knowledge and then applied it to her job searching experience as well. So I was helping coaching her through her job search because, as we know, the job market right now is quite a mess. So I was just like, let's remain optimistic, positive, like let's get you to like the absolute number one choice for any organization. So it was interesting that she used her very sharp barometer through working together with me to then hone her skills in recognizing what were red flags in job descriptions and the job interviews, and recognizing what were green flags. And I was helping her hone this skill. So then by the time that a big tech organization, like, I don't know, like she had a few under her belt in terms of interviews, then the last one was just like an absolute dream fit, that she was like, wow, like everything seems like green flags. I can recognize some sort of like pink flags going towards reds, but I think those are fixable. They're short term. That's fine. And then she was able to absolutely crush it in her assignments and crush it in how she delivered. And this was a woman who a year and a half ago was literally shaking in her voice when she was speaking to me. She was so unsure, to a point where now she's so calm, she's so together. So that breakthrough was like so special to see, so special to see.
Such an interesting story. And I think the way you're talking about your clients, your people, you should call yourself the PMM therapist, because symptoms and sitting there just perfect for you. When a person joins your coaching sessions, what are the exact things that you help them with?
So it's a great question, because at the start, when I created productmarketers.com, I thought that I had to create one thing and just be known for one thing, which was the personal branding side, right? So initially I was like, I help you with your internal and external personal brand, because the internal personal brand piece is so important. It's like the authority building, who you know, who knows you, how you relay what product marketing is, like all of the intricacies with the people management side, right? Versus the external, which is on LinkedIn. So then the recruiters, the market know who you are. So then you're always in demand. So I thought initially I wanted calls around that. Now, what was super fascinating is with, like we were mentioning previously, with the content that I was producing and putting out, I was attracting PMMs with all different sorts of issues going on in their life. And it was really fascinating where every single great client that I've had has come in with a very specific issue, wanting that solved as quickly as possible. I deliver on that within like months. And they're like, oh my God, like I was dealing with this for years and now it's solved. And then I work with them on any other issue that comes out of it. Because I feel like there's problem loops. Once you solve a problem, then a new problem arises. So now, whenever a person comes to me, I'm always like, what is happening in your world? Like, what is going on? Tell me everything, because I need to understand the context. And I think I'm very good naturally. My superpower is to, as you said, kind of like a therapist, kind of like a doctor, to diagnose the situation very clearly and then give you a prescription. So instead of you showing up, Priyanka, for example, being like, oh, I have these issues, Hattie. And then I'm like, okay, cool. Well, let's just wrap up your arm in the bandage. And it's like, well, like my arm isn't even hurting. Like, how does that help? That is not the solution. So for me, I make everything custom. I make everything diagnosable. And I spend the upfront time figuring out what is happening in the lay of your land. And in the client space, it really helps them just get everything off of their shoulders. Because they're like, finally, someone's actually listening. And my goal is always, always, always to get you to your goal as quickly as possible. Because I, firstly, have an attention deficit. So I'm like, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. So that's always really worked well. And I allow people to always drop into my LinkedIn DMs, ping me on email. If they're ever unsure, I have discovery calls on the productmarketers.com website. So I make sure that I enable people to have conversation with me to then share what the heck is actually happening in their life.
So any problem from sales is not listening to me, do I want to level up and go to big tech? You are covering it all.
Yeah, basically. And there have been some times where people come to me with an issue that I'm like, I don't know how to solve this. So, but luckily what's great is I know so many other PMMs now because I speak to so many a week. I'm speaking like to maybe 20 plus PMMs a week. And if I throw my events, then that's like 70 plus people in one room. So I know someone who can solve an issue. Like if they are like, I specifically want to go ultra deep on the topic of AI and how I can implement AI agents into XYZ, I would like, dude, right now, I'm not really read up on that, but I know PMMs who can get you there. So I'm very happy transferring people because my goal, like I said, is to serve. My goal is to serve PMMs and not to just like use and abuse us in a way that I honestly feel like we have been used and abused, where a lot of the content for product marketing is just not useful. It's very high level. It's very utopian in the dream world. Like we will get stakeholder buy-in from everyone. And it's like, what planet are you on? So yeah, I'm just like, I serve people in a very honest and transparent way. I'll never take money from anyone that I'm like, I actually don't know how to solve this. A lot of people I'm not meant to serve, and a lot of people I am meant to serve. So it is what it is,
Great intentions out there. We just talked about events, meetups in London. So building online is one thing, but you've brought it offline too. What made you start organizing these in-person PMM meetups in London?
Primarily because I wanted it. Very selfish. Because at the time I was working my full-time job. I've been throwing meetups now for over a year and a half. The first year I was doing it completely free. It was just a meetup. Everyone gets together, have a drink, have a chat, network, and it was great. It was really awesome. And I did it with the mind that, well, my first meetup was for PMMs and PMs because I wanted product managers there as well. And then I noticed that a lot of PMMs wanted a safe space that we could have a soundboard and just have a chat. So I got really fed up of the online world, especially during COVID. And I realized that I wanted a place for us London PMMs just to meet up. And, there were other meetups that are happening for PMMs in the local area. However, I knew that I could bring more of a human approach to it. I knew that I can bring more value to us because I was just asking myself as a PMM, what do I want? And then I was asking friends, what is it that you want? And they really didn't want a corporate, cold feeling, large organization running this. They wanted a one person, one woman band to throw meetups that were actually useful, that can actually be implemented into their daytime job. So for me now, all of the meetups in London, I throw a panel. So we have a panel discussion I've had PMMs from Netflix, Meta, Amazon, Monzo, Revolut, from really large organizations on these panels being transparent about topics that people are usually afraid to speak about. We've spoken about salaries. We've spoken about how we broke in. One person said that they got in through nepotism. Nepotism means when your friends or family get you into a job. They were very transparent about that. And it was just like, it was awesome. Everyone was left coming up to me, Priyanka being like, Hattie, what just happened? That was like the best event I've ever come to. Even people on LinkedIn are resharing all of the photos from the meetups and being like, I attended this meetup by Hattie last week and I'm still thinking about it. They're literally like, I'm still thinking about it because it just blew my mind at how open and honest and useful it was. I've taken back so many things that I can action this week, not next month, not next year, not hypothetically, because it's a high level, like boring panel, like snore. It's like, no, it's actually useful. And I wanted a place that didn't feel corporate and it didn't feel fake or cold. Like I'm allergic to that. So now I'm very, very thankful I can get, 70 PMMs in a room, all enjoying each other's time, learning from one another, having open and honest discussion, making actual friendships, and they come back time and time again. So yeah, I'm really grateful that it's worked out the way it has because, again, I'm just serving the people.
Exactly. And 70 people a week, that's a hell lot of networking, like knowing people. So many people you must know, Hattie. Uh, is there a difference between how UK-based PMMs approach their careers versus other countries?
Yeah, I would say the biggest disparity is between the UK and EMEA and the US, I would say. What I found is really fascinating because I have a lot of US based people and PMMs within my community. They are so open to investing in their career and their skill sets. It's like a American mantra, which is like invest in yourself, always back you, you're always a winner, like invest, invest, invest. Whilst in EMEA, and especially the UK, some PMMs really see it as a cost as opposed to an investment. Now, for me, the difference is stark, where a cost is something that is taken away from you, and an investment is something that's given to you. And the Americans that show up are like, I am here to invest in me. They're not investing in Hattie, they're investing in themselves through me, right? So they are investing in themselves and they always invest in themselves year after year. They do not wait for the L&D budget. If something is meant for them and they want to invest in it, they will self-fund. They will pay for it. Now, there's probably someone listening, Priyanka, being like, well, that's easy for Americans. They get paid XYZ more than majority of us. And I'm like, that's true. They get paid way more. Their salaries are anywhere between like 200K to 500K plus, depending on the big tech firm that they're at. It's crazy, right? Whilst in the UK, the salary range is basically what I'm seeing in the market right now is anywhere between 60K to 150K, depending on if you're in big tech or if you're in a small firm, a scale up. And obviously it's even less across like other countries in EMEA. Now, the difference is that investment is seen as a compounding vehicle. Where the US, obviously, they can just spend. In EMEA, it makes more sense to find the money and see that as a long-term compounding investment because you paid for it once, but it stays with you forever. And that's the biggest mindset shift. The people that I've seen move up in their careers the fastest are the people who invest in themselves. And it doesn't have to be directly towards career now. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't even have to be like a product marketing centric thing. It can be something as simple as therapy, which in some cases I've told people they might want to consider. And I've done LinkedIn posts about this where I have a very I have a viral LinkedIn post, which I was basically saying the people who move up in their career the fastest are the people who've done therapy. And an Amazon PMM then pinged me and said, you are 100% right. He's a guy. He was like, I did therapy. And I swear to God, the minute that I did, I unpacked all of my internal bullshit and all of my crap that was holding me back from me becoming successful. And I unpacked that with a therapist. I was then able to back myself, to have confidence, to be able to stay strong within myself when everything was happening chaotically around me. So then he was like, he was then perceived as someone who had their shit together, someone who was perceived to be like a strong person. And then he was moving up and up and up throughout his career because he always backed himself because he worked through this limiting belief of holding him back for a therapist. And again, that's an investment. And I don't think from the conversations that I've had with a lot of UK person, and especially me being British, where, you know, growing up, money was always an issue. We couldn't afford a lot. I've been very transparent that my dad's a baker, my mum was a cleaner, and then she became a teaching assistant. Money was always a point of contention, always a point of arguments. We never had enough. And it was really a sticking factor in my brain, which was like, money is scarce. Like, I need to hold on to every pound that I get, like save, like never spend. And then I was thinking about the FIRE movement and all of this nonsense. And I was like, I need to unpack all of these triggers and traumas and like beliefs that were actually not serving me. They were holding me back, Priyanka, right? And I think it's a lot of other people that are being held back by their own self. Whilst when I see Americans, they kind of face everything head on. It's like the American dream. Anything is attainable. Everything is in abundance. They go hard. Everything is huge there, from their portion sizes of their food to the organizations, to the buildings, to their beliefs, to their like mantras, to how they rev up for their organizations. Like, woo, woo, we're going to be a winner. You know, we're a success. Everything is big there. Whilst in Britain, specifically, being a British person, born and raised Londoner, everything is kind of being made small. And if you're a success, you shouldn't show it. Like, no one's really, like, if you drive a Lamborghini in London, people are like, oh. Whilst if you were driving a Lamborghini in America, they'd be like, ooh, you get it, girl, right? So that's the biggest thing that I've seen. And that's why it always makes me laugh when a PMM, especially a British one, is like, I just need to take another go-to-market course. And I'm like, honey, like, what is that going to do for you? I think you need to unpack what is going on here and invest in yourself in maybe a different way, you know? So
That's very fascinating to know.
yeah, it's wild.
Do you recommend PMMs build a portfolio? And if so, what should it include?
I recommend PMMs build a portfolio on LinkedIn. Now, why do I say this? LinkedIn is searchable. Recruiters are on there time and time again. I've had PMMs that I've spoken to, PMMs that I've had on my panels at my meetups, say that they have landed every single job in their career through a recruiter outreaching them on LinkedIn. Now, when it comes to people who are like, I need a website and I need a portfolio on a PDF or a website or a downloadable or whatever, I always think to myself, is your ICP actually on your website? Probably not. It's probably not ranking on Google. It's probably nowhere to be found unless someone pings you directly. And the way that it's most searchable is on LinkedIn. So I recommend using your LinkedIn as your portfolio. If you've done something well that week, post about it. If you've done a exceptional piece of a campaign or something that went really well as a go-to-market launch, then post about it and share your learnings and basically see it as a building the trust before the recruiter comes, or building the trust so an ICP, so someone who's actually going to refer you for a job, can read it and be like, like Hattie posted about, the go-to-market launch that crushed, but also she mentioned the failures that went along with it. And I trust her because of this piece of content. And therefore, that is your portfolio. A portfolio doesn't have to be as kind of strict definition as like a PDF or a website. It can be a living, breathing thing, which is LinkedIn, where you create the content and then you can actually pin specific posts to your featured section. So then people can find it whenever they search your profile, they will find these pinned posts. And I did this when I was employed, when I was building up my LinkedIn, following my LinkedIn presence whilst being employed. Every time that I had a positive annual review or biannual review, I would post it on LinkedIn, because I was always trying to signal to the market, I know what I'm doing. The people that I work with me knows what I'm doing. The people that I like are higher up than me have said this amount of praise, had said that amount of praise. And I was signaling to the market through this living, breathing portfolio of LinkedIn profile and LinkedIn posts that I know what it is I'm doing, and therefore I'm building trust, and then the trust compounds with time. And then it's not just one-to-one marketing or networking, it's one-to-many marketing and networking. So a lot more people know about me than I even know about them. And that's the winning strategy. If anyone takes anything away from this, that is the way to do it. Do not worry about your website or your domain link or your blah, blah, blah. If no one's going to be there, the best place for you to do it is on LinkedIn.
Love that advice. And how many days did it take for you to build an online presence that you have today? How many years or months?
Gosh, honestly, the honest answer is probably my entire career. Because bear in mind, when I kicked off my career, I had my own company. I went viral in the press time and time again. This is something that a lot of people don't know, because I guess I just don't mention it. But I was featured in Huffington Post, The Telegraph, The Daily Mail, like The Times, not Forbes. I was really trying my best to get into there. But I was in like so many different publications. And I started to make a name for myself through my own company. Then that was what got me into my job as the CMO, because when I exited my company, I posted on both my Twitter and my LinkedIn that I've exited my company. And then CEOs started reaching out, being like, wow, like what you did with your company was amazing. We want to hire you. So then I recognized, people were still finding me through social media, through my personal brand. And then that unlocked new doors to my product marketing job in my recent one, where I actually had the job title, where again, it was a product manager who had found me in a different community, but had found me and seen me in the press, had seen me in articles, had seen me posting. But I honestly, this is a lifelong thing that I've done across my career in so many different ways. And I would recommend everyone have that sort of outlook. I know that it's difficult, and even I found it difficult back in the day, especially in my 20s, when I was like, I just want to be known right now. Like, I want to be known yesterday. When actually it's more beneficial to us to look at it as a long-term play and look at it as a compounding investment. Because the more that we can see it as a long-term 10 year, 20 years, 30 years of like, what does my personal brand look like? Then you do the right things. You're not making shortcuts, and you're not doing anything too icky or gross that isn't in line with where you want to be or how you want to be perceived. So everything that I've done with quality, with a human approach that's super honest, sometimes harshly honest, but it's always rooted in kindness and actually wanting to help. So I would recommend everyone see their entire career as a compounding investment that actually goes up in value towards the end of your career, where you're earning huge amounts of money. So see it as an investment today for then the huge amounts of money that you'll be ending at the end of it.
Oh, that was amazing. What's one framework or tool that you use daily that you wish more PMMs knew about?
Honestly, most frameworks I don't really believe in. I see them as like a V1 foundational place to start, and then I edit off of that. So then I make tinkers and I change things. So I never take anything or a framework as, oh, well, that's exactly how it's meant to be done. Like even people that I absolutely adore, absolutely love, people like my friends, April Dunford, Anthony Pieri, like people that I've spoken to, I love, like they are great, great friends, no disrespect whatsoever. But I always use their frameworks as like V1 and then I edit it according to where I work or the place that I'm at or the organization, the vertical, whatever the case may be, right? For me, I keep it simple, stupid. There's that KISS phrase, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. And I use stuff like my Notes app. My Notes app is full of absolute gems. It's full of gems from business ideas to if I'm out and about and I have an idea, I will voice note myself a transcription in my Notes app and then make sure that I review it later. It's where I used to have like so many different tools, like such an in-depth tech stack that I got lost and I was like, what do I do? And like, this is overwhelming. So that's why I would recommend keep it simple, stupid. Use the tools that you find beneficial, that you like using, and don't feel that you need to be a puzzle piece and forcing and jamming yourself into a tool that doesn't feel aligned. For example, Notion has never felt aligned with me. Never, ever, never will. It feels like a fucking waste of time to me. So I will never use it, but I know a lot of other people find it like that's their day to day. That's their to do. That's like their place that they live. And I'm like, good for you, but it's not me. I'd rather live in my Notes app. So use tools that suit you as opposed to you having to adopt to tools.
I live in my writing pad, so.
There we go. There we go.
So we have arrived at the last question. One company that you think is doing great marketing today?
One company that I think is doing great marketing today.
You can say none. That's also fine.
So honestly, no company really comes to mind, which I don't know if it says more about me or more about the companies that I'm bumping into. I use a ton of tools and I see a lot of organizations doing marketing, towards me, towards PMMs, towards marketers in general. But for some reason, I don't think enough organizations are leaning into either guerrilla marketing or they're leaning into having a stance where, back in the day, Apple used to do those amazing advertisements which were around geniuses and Einstein and like being a winner and being a champion. And so did Nike, right? They did the entire series around Michael Jordan and like, being a winner and all of this. I don't feel like we have that within tech. It feels all very samey, all very copycat, very like VC, private equity, playbook shit. So for me, nothing really stands out.
That's okay. That's completely okay. So, yeah, we are done with my questions. And thank you so much, Hattie, again, for finding the time to do this.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
Yeah, 60 minutes just flew by.
Yeah,
Thank you,
it did.
everyone. Bye. If you found this episode helpful, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button on YouTube and drop a rating on Spotify. It really helps more marketers discover these expert insights. For episode updates and even more marketing wisdom, follow the Who Invited Marketing page on LinkedIn. And hey, if you have any guest suggestions or topics you'd like to hear more about, let me know in the comments or connect with me on LinkedIn. Thanks for tuning into Who Invited Marketing. I'll see you in the next episode.